You, my old adversary, my mortal foe. I really wish my mum had taught me how to tie you when I was a kid. And now I'm in the middle of a Brazilian league match. But you must be tackled. Not literally, obviously. I don't want someone to tackle me. Esteban, I need you to focus.
Goiás caído. Arthur Kaique manda lançamento no comando. O Matheus Nogueira dormiu no ponto. Olha o gol! Pra fora do...
Oof, missed by like a toenail, man. Which reminds me, flipping heck, man. Yo guys, it is your boy Earnin here, and you are watching FTW. This is of course the series where I bring to you the best and more frequently the worst what football has to offer during the last 7 days. But what has been kicking off in the world this week? Well, Chris Brown assaulted someone. Apologies if you wanted some actual surprising news, don't shoot the messenger. Oh wait, no, sorry, that's Tory Lane. Chris here was arrested for bottling a man in a London nightclub. As a man who Bluetooth connected his nose to a bottle last year, this isn't recommended, but Chris was released after a £5 million bail. Some massive income there for JLFC. Big sale, I gotta say. 5 M's. I sure as hell know it wasn't Ineos getting him out of there. We might have a few United players heading to JLFC though, given how this season has turned out, but he did have a chance to right some of those wrongs with a Europa League final versus fellow alleged football club Tottenham. Both have been so bad this season, it's a wonder how they haven't been relegated from the Europa League, let alone making the final. Yet here we are, the two teams playing a practice match in Bilbao on Tuesday night.
Oh, jeezy pips, man.
A better night though, in fairness, than these United fans who had Tottenham supporters throwing beer all over them. And it didn't get much better for other United fans across the city, with an old man poking them out of his front garden. But at least they'd be vindicated when Tottenham would of course surely not win a trophy. Wait. What?
Tottenham have won a European trophy. Oh my fucking god.
Tottenham won a piece of silverware. They actually won the Europa League final, ladies and gentlemen. This is actually remarkable. And it comes thanks to a single goal from Brennan Johnson in the first half. It ends a 17-year silverware drought and lowers bullying cases all across North London. Guys, I can't stress this enough. Tottenham have won a trophy. I don't think you understand how mental this is.
It's the history of the Tottenham.
Ange is saying he usually wins things in his second season, doing badly, then doubling down saying he always wins things in his second season, and actually winning a European trophy for Tottenham, given the circumstances in his second season, is now one of the coldest quotes in football history. North London manifest. The players also recognise this. James Maddison and Sergio Reguilon holding up a poster of Ange with the quote on it. Even Liverpool forward Mo Salah recognised just how crazy this was. I know what you're doing here, Mo. You're celebrating United losing. Don't think I can't see you. And to think that anybody doubted this man.
You all laughed at me. Well, I have to say, you're not laughing now, are you?
The Tottenham players, of course, were delighted at full-time speaking to the media, including James Maddison, who was interviewed by Gareth Bale on TNT Sports. Nobody showed Gareth the tweet that James put out about him back in 2012, though. Then again, this final was held in Spain, so monkey jokes are hardly that uncommon in the local area. James, of course, also had it out for fellow pundit Roy Keane. Roy, who hadn't been too happy with his performances and attitude recently, to which James had fought back in press conferences and online.
To be fair, I wasn't going to do any interviews, but then I heard it was with Roy Keane, so I
Can you do the downside, please? Do it for us, will ya?
Oh, will I? With pleasure, Michael, with pleasure. Roy Keane, that's for you, sir.
It's a shithousery award for the Tottenham midfielder. There's the revelation that this is actually all just a big revenge plot for Ange Postecoglou, who was managing South Melbourne in 2000 when they were beaten by Manchester United in the Club World Cup. And all of this comes from one inspirational team talk. Lads, it's only United. Let's talk about the game, though. Terrible actual quality all round from everybody involved. Should have really seen this coming from 16th versus 17th in the Premier League. But it was like actually searching for a live stream on YouTube, but it's just a guy playing PES 2014 instead. One fan was actually caught out by that, it turns out, for the first half an hour of the game. It was like throwing a football into a ward in ICU and watching what happened. One United fan was en route to the game to Bilbao in a boat. He was taken all the way from his own home. Honestly, this will be him to that boat on the way home because of the depression. Casemiro trying to charge back to stop a Tottenham counter-attack was like one of those inspirational videos where someone learns how to walk again. Except he doesn't need to learn how to walk again, he's just got crippling arthritis. And Spurs, as I mentioned, would take the lead through a combination of Luke Shaw and Andre Onana incompetence. Bruno Fernandes was sat praying, waiting for Ruben Amorim to substitute Rasmus Højlund off the pitch. And speaking of those substitutions, Ruben waited far too long in this game. I'm not sure if he fell asleep down on the touchline like the rest of us, but the rest of his United squad paid homage to him by doing absolutely nothing as as well. Alejandro Garnacho went bleach blonde for this game just to get benched. Yamal Nacho is absolutely insane, by the way. But when United did create something and did go close to scoring, Mickey van der Veen pulled out an incredible acrobatic clearance off the line to prevent it. One United fan was happy to be on TV, but by the end of proceedings, he wasn't happy anymore. He wasn't even crying because of the result. He just had to watch Luke Shaw for 90 minutes. Meanwhile, Harry Maguire and Christian Romero were going at it during this match, and that continued after the full-time whistle.
I want this man to be no more.
But with that, Tottenham had won it.
It's salvation for Spurs in Bilbao. And after a 17-year wait, they finally win a major trophy.
These are 17th in the Prem, and they're going to the Champions League. I want you all to take that in. The levels of pummeling these lot are going to get is going to be criminal next season. We've had Harry Kane and Heung-min Son win a trophy in the same season, for fuck's sake. Although you wouldn't know it based on some of the pictures, because Son, Bentancur and Christian Romero actually didn't receive their medal out on the pitch when they were doing the trophy lift. They had to wait until they got back into the changing room instead. Either way, Heung-min Son's waited his whole life for this, and they ran out before he even got to the buffet. He'll be checking his medal in the morning and realising it's a chocolate coin instead.
Securing the coin.
Goalkeeper Gigi Vicario brought out an Insta caption about the history of the Tottenham after the famous Giorgio Chiellini quote, "It's a shithousery award for the Italian shot stopper." But it's not all good news, I can't lie. Daniel Levy will be left frustrated, realising he's actually going to pay out some Europa League bonuses now. Tottenham fans won't care about that whatsoever though. They'll have been out in the town in Bilbao immediately, putting the phone down straight away when their boss calls them for an extra shift, whilst 28 Estrellas and a bag of ketamine down.
And I went, fuck off, and put the phone down.
This though is the worst case scenario for Arsenal fans, watching their bitter rivals win a European trophy before them. For United though, it's even more of a disaster.
It can't go on like this, can it?
It can.
So, are we still doing the barbecue or something? I'm not gonna lie, I'm getting a little bit hungry at the moment. So Jim will at least be pleased owning the club, realising this defeat means he doesn't have to buy champagne and balloons, but he will now be questioning his decision to buy a disposal barbecue in preparation beforehand.
Should we have spent so heavily in the past? Probably not, but we lived the dream.
Let's be honest, Luke Shaw is devastated at the news. Not the defeat, just the fact that he's not actually going to be turning up for a barbecue anymore. As for Ruben Amorim, he seems very embarrassed by the entire ordeal, offering to leave without compensation if United want to get him out of there. They might have to do that if they do want to sack him at this point, because combine their astronomical wages with a lack of European football and finishing just 16th in the league, plus the fact that the bonus they received for getting to the Europa League final mostly went to Chelsea because of a clause in Mason Mount's contract, and these lot are absolutely finished. This United squad, in the eyes of Sir Alex Ferguson, must be something to behold, because he hates every minute of watching these lot.
Right back is Joseph Stalin, Saddam Hussein and Judas in the middle with Robert Mugabe sitting in defensive midfield.
One United fan said he's not cutting his hair till the club win 5 games in a row. Brother, they can't even hit 1 win in a row. What made him think of that? I, for one, though, as a United hater, think Amorim must stay. Meanwhile, given the current trend of clubs winning trophies and Real Betis ahead of their Conference League final, reckon they might need a badge change. Overall, though, I am legitimately happy for Spurs, mostly because I am happy that United lost. But both of these teams need massive upgrades for next season, because the quality of football on show here was awful. I suspect Tottenham will be able to attract those players now, because they're in the Champions League. Meanwhile, it's big trouble for United. Now, there was a final in Bilbao, but there was a final at Wembley as well, with a lot at stake for Crystal Palace and Manchester City. Palace looking to upset the odds and defeat serial winners Manchester City, though it's been less serial and more croissant winners this season for a Pep side that are a little bit out of form. So Ollie Glasner's men were looking to cause the biggest Palace upset since the royal family's corgis died, and that's exactly what they do.
The Eagles have landed. Oliver's army are on their way.
It truly is the year of the underdog and ending trophy droughts, as Palace grabbed their first major trophy ever in their history, fam. Ebere Eze became an immediate club legend after scoring the only goal in this one, with Palace ultras in London absolutely loving the scenes. Those ultras, though, would also witness a scandalous refereeing decision, as Dean Henderson decided to play some basketball outside of his own area and somehow wasn't given a red card for his trouble. Now look, listen, I'm all for a Crystal Palace win, okay? I was practically begging for this result to happen, yeah? But my head would be on a different planet if I lost the final because of this. Jack Grealish's head was on Uranus, and he was also fuming with the situation as well. Ollie must have put a word into the referee's ear looking at the VAR screen with him. Who even was on VAR for this one? Alright, Fez. I mean, that makes a little bit of sense, Ali. Let's be honest, the referee realised he'd like to be able to walk through South London without getting stabbed, and so gave them the benefit of the doubt. I mean, that's going to happen if he walks through South London anyway, to be fair, but though I'm not going to lie to you, with all of Manchester City's VAR crimes over the years, this was probably justified. Of course, though, with Palace 1-0 up, Manchester City would win themselves a pen. Omar Marmoush, surprisingly, would step up instead of Erling Haaland, and Dean Henderson, you know, the man who was supposed to be sent off a second ago, he would make a crucial, vital save, a heroic save to stop the Egyptian. Other than than that, there were chances here and there. Palace played really well, I'm not gonna lie to you. But the most entertaining thing was probably the physio scrapping. Physios having a scrap. What are they even fighting over? I think you're fucking fine, mate. I'm a little bit better at loosening their calves. Yeah, well, who's got the 5-star stretch out rating on TripAdvisor? You wouldn't know a hamstring if it snapped in your face, big man. In the crowd, meanwhile, and Maya Jamal was watching her new man, Ruben Diaz, lose to Stormzy's local. But it was beef at full time between Pep Guardiola and Crystal Palace goalkeeper Dean Henderson.
I didn't call you Baldy.
Pep saying to him, you didn't deserve that, it's a disgrace. Meanwhile, Dean replied saying, well, you got your 10 minutes of injury time that you paid for. Clearly, Pep not happy with the fact that Dean was still on the pitch. For me, though, Crystal Palace did deserve it. I know that refereeing decision was absolutely awful, but they played brilliantly. They're a club that deserves a lot with a brilliant community. I mean, the wholesomeness as well was going on in the crowd too. Palace fans bringing a tifo of young supporters from back when Darren Ambrose scored a crucial goal for them like over a decade ago. They were celebrating with their dad, who recently passed away, and those two sons were in the crowd, now grown, crying tears of joy looking at the tifo that had been made for them and celebrating their first ever major trophy win. Ollie Glasner speaking of how his club had brought joy to the South London community. It was wholesome scenes as well for Dean Henderson, who spoke of how his own dad had passed away over the last year and how he would have been looking down upon him whilst he saved a penalty in an FA Cup final. So that wholesomeness kind of ended when Will Hughes decided to celebrate. Yeah. Man City and Kevin De Bruyne are at least ending things on a happy note in the Premier League as they defeated Bournemouth in his farewell tour. He got himself a guard of honour. Manchester City fans brought a brilliant banner for him, and he gets his own statue outside the Etihad, which of course is massively deserved. I mean, I know we talk about Manchester City's like Gulf oil money. Even since then, he is easily the shining light, I would say, in terms of longevity, in terms of trophies won, and in terms of overall footballing quality as well. He's one of the best midfielders the Premier League's ever seen. New City fans in 15 years will be wondering why their dads have given them the name Kevin, born on the 28th of June 1991 De Bruyne. Meanwhile, former players were paying their respects too, the likes of Sergio Aguero, Leroy Sané, but an interesting addition to make the third one, I've got to say. People talking about Saudi Arabia next, not sure this man would survive more than 3 minutes in that country without heat stroke. Meanwhile, Pep Guardiola will be emotional at the Belgian leaving, even though he's planning to replace him, signing Florian Wirtz for £7.8 kajillion.
We cannot replace him. We cannot.
Liverpool v Brighton now, and the Reds bottled a 2-0 lead for the second week in a row. What I can only imagine is a result of still being high on bath salts. They lost 3-2 this week to the Seagulls. Andrew Robertson was getting emotional after being asked to track back, but his blood alcohol level is 128%.
For me, I can't do it.
You can! You can do it, you can!
Obviously not a great result here, but let's be honest, the fans don't give a fuck, and the players are probably still on holiday as well. Though because of our recent poor form after winning the league, the maximum we can achieve is 89 points. This of course only what Arsenal achieved when they finished second behind Man City, and AFTV tweeted that means that our ceiling is their floor or something. Ah yeah, you know what mate, sack off the parade then, actually, to be fair. If we didn't achieve what Arsenal achieved in a season where they didn't even win the league, then I guess we might as well cancel ours, to be honest. Trent Alexander-Arnold was looking pretty awkward at full time, even with the fans celebrating behind him. And with Liverpool opening up a vote and a poll for their player of the season vote, other fans have got involved, spam voting Trent Alexander-Arnold to win. But with Arsenal fans getting involved to vote for him, it means he will ultimately finish second. He'll be getting abused by Reds fans at the ceremony after picking up his player of the season award. Arsenal did secure that second spot with a 1-0 win over chasing Newcastle. Declan Rice scored the deciding goal here. His sack's blood, it's a mad thing still. He made the most out of the Arsenal sound system at the Emirates for his celebration. He could also be seen doing up Xavi levels of scanning. This man's just pretending that he's busy at the workplace. Meanwhile, Miles Lewis-Skelly was having some banter with Gunnosaurus, giving the Arsenal mascot a cheeky little slap. So the Daily Mail and other publications won't be too pleased. Young black man who's extremely black and probably on the verge of raising London City knife crime violently attacks Caucasian Arsenal mascot. Someone's named a horse after Riccardo Calafiori and it was involved in a horse race, I guess that's what they call it, and it finished second. You couldn't even write it. That horse, I know it was doing hair flicks 3 furlongs from the end instead of trying to win. Chelsea versus United saw battle of the melons in the league. Rasmus Højlund was asking evil Saka for advice on how to score, but Tyreek George wasn't giving that information away.
I'm not telling you, big man, I'm not telling you.
Don't give it away.
And watching on as strikers at both ends seem more likely to talk about the weather than score, Chelsea's wing-backs decided to combine for the goal. Reece James setting up Marc Cucurella, who now has more goal contributions than Højlund this season. The Dane definitely is frauding his way as a striker at this point. United and Ruben Amorim continuing to dedicate to a 3-4-2-1 formation. Coincidentally, what Cole Palmer says if you asked him to count. upwards.
What?
Everton said goodbye to their iconic Goodison Park Stadium this week, the final home league match played in that ground before they move away to a new stadium. Liverpool fans got their revenge for the blue flare incident by selling red flares packaged as blue ones to Everton supporters. But their new stadium that they're moving to is being renamed the Hill Dickinson Arena. No saying.
That is unbelievable. That is a bad one.
I'm convinced the Liverpool fans created this company out of thin air just for the joke. Meanwhile, there was something even more miraculous happening on Merseyside as far as the Toffees were concerned. After 10 years of searching, this Twitter account managed to find a black Everton fan. I really have seen it all. Now, Nottingham Forest claimed a vital win in the race for European spots, beating West Ham 2-1. When they scored, they raised up a shirt in support of Taiwo Awoniyi, who was recently in an induced coma after an abdominal injury. A lovely touch, I've got to say, and a nice touch for their winger Jota, who wears his own name on his shin pads. Meanwhile, at Brentford's under-21s versus Bournemouth's, and they're winding up a long throw-in that Rory Delap
Before half-time.
wouldn't be proud of. He wouldn't at all, not even slightly. In Spain though now, and Barcelona's men and women's sides are celebrating in the same week after lifting their respective La Liga crowns. Now that is equality. Lamine Yamal's out here performing again against Villarreal, this time grabbing casual nutmegs on his own coaching staff. And as Barcelona celebrated with their actual official trophy lift, Yamal's little brother was lost in the sauce and the confetti. Pedri celebrated a little bit differently, carrying on his tradition of penalties with his dad. Wojciech Szczesny was done with just petty smoking, bringing out a full cigar. If he's smoking tobacco, Marc-Andre ter Stegen must be smoking weed. This man was off it once again versus Villarreal, and I'm starting to think that Rafinha was wondering why he was even there in the first place during the club's celebrations. Barcelona's trophy parade also took place with 670,000 people turning up. Lamine Yamal was using it as a chance to work on his reflexes, catching food and a phone thrown up by fans. He's genuinely done more with his hands here than ter Stegen has this season. But if Lamine Yamal is the current talk of the town in terms of a wonder kid, then the next up might be a La Masia graduate at the age of 13 called Fode Diallo, whose goal scoring record, as you can see here, is absolutely mental. Knowing Barca, he'll be starting next week. Real Madrid announced the signing of Bournemouth centre-back Dean Huijsen. He'll be joining the side for the Club World Cup, and confirmed that Sergio Ramos is actually his centre-back idol. If that's his idolo, we're going to see Dean flying in for a big challenge in game week 1. Speaking of going mad, and Leo Roman for Mallorca has decided that he only fancies turning up against El Clasico teams. This man's quite literally been getting benched, but brings out an absolute barnstorming performance when it's Barca or Real. Perhaps Mallorca's celebrations, though, have gone a little bit too far here. There was wholesome stuff at Real Betis, where Anthony was gifted a special little Spider-Man pendant by a young fan. He said he was going to continue to wear as a good luck charm for Spanish games. And former Spanish forward Dani Gaita, who played at the 2008 European Championships, at a ripe age of 44 is still playing football. He was played through one-on-one with the goalkeeper down, decided to take the honourable path and allowed the shot stopper to get some treatment. There's been drama in Italy though. Napoli and Inter are facing off for the league title, and things really hotted up here in the penultimate game week. At halftime in this one, Inter were 1-0 up in their game against Lazio, doing all they needed to do to try and take the lead in the Scudetto race. Lazio though then equalised with 20 to go, before Inter took the lead back in the 80th minute. The manager Simone Inzaghi was then sent off, as Lazio scored a penalty to equalise again. In the other game meanwhile, and Napoli were unable to break through against Parma, that they grabbed a penalty in the 96th minute, only for it to be overturned in the 100th minute, while at the same time Inter had a goal disallowed for offside in the 99th. It leaves the sides just a point apart going into the final game week of the season. Imagine poor Antonio Conte's heart rate during all of this. Let's be honest, the referee's gonna have a hard time escaping the Napoli manager after disallowing that penalty call late on. Though after both bosses were sent off during the final minutes of the game, Simone Inzaghi's gonna be surprised to see Antonio Conte waiting for him in the stands.
Hello. Hang on, mate. Fancy seeing you here.
Elsewhere, I did speak about it briefly last week, but Bologna, of course, won the Coppa Italia. But a lot has happened since then. They tweeted about Palace and the fact that they wear the same kit. There was excitement out on the streets as F1 driver Kimi Antonelli was driving through. A 96-year-old Bologna fan finally got to see his side win a major trophy, and it was so unbelievably wholesome. Meanwhile, Hakan Çalhanoğlu was spotted liking Bologna players' tweets after they beat his former side, Milan. It's a shithousery award for the Turk. At Fiorentina, and Moise Kean's taken liberties, griddying past his opponents after his side scored. At Roma, and Claudio Ranieri was celebrating his final game in charge, or home game in charge of Roma. He's done an unbelievable job to take them back from 12th when he took over, all the way towards European football, and potentially eventually even into the Champions League. Honestly, what a wholesome career this guy's had. It's been difficult at times, like the Chelsea role and stuff, but Leicester, Roma, there always seems to be some incredible storyline. None of that wholesome shit, though, going on at Genoa. We're celebrating their sworn enemy Sampdoria getting relegated to Serie C. No relegation at Cagliari. They're safe, and their now famous mascot was absolutely loving it. In Germany, and with news that Florian Wirtz may well be leaving Bayer Leverkusen, the German champions of last season are at least asking everybody to actually try and spell his name correctly. Xabi Alonso, of course, is on his way out of Leverkusen too. He spent his final minutes at the club being very controversial. Michael Olise, unsurprisingly, won the Bundesliga Rookie of the Season after an unbelievable campaign for Bayern Munich. This brother does not give a shit, fam. Look at his face.
But I don't know.
Borussia Dortmund, though, will be celebrating as they've accidentally managed to get into the Champions League.
How did you get up there?
Yeah, they were 11th at one point recently, but now find themselves 4th in the league as the Bundesliga closes. They couldn't quite believe it either on Twitter after defeating Holstein Kiel 3-0. Frankfurt are also celebrating Champions League football in a petrol station, of all places. Guys, please, I just want to put some diesel in my car, if you could just hurry. And shout out to Mainz 05 as well, who've qualified for the Conference League. A big surprise, really, and a squad of players that have put their all in and have really put themselves on the map, so big congratulations. In France, there was controversy surrounding Nemanja Matic, who decided to cover an LGBTQ+ logo or banner on his shirt, even though he was happy to rep it last season. Not even a religious move, just pure unadulterated homophobia. It was an emotional time for Alexander Lacazette at Lyon, who was playing his final game for the club. He was tearing up during training, given the Lyon chance for him, and was pictured in the stadium all on his own, collecting his thoughts at full time. Bro thinks he's Iniesta. Elsewhere in Liga, and Eric Roy is sticking with Brest. And how about this for coldness? The Av need to score to secure their safety in Ligue 1. Step forward, Abdoulaye Touré, who's got a penalty to win them the game against Strasbourg. It's the 100th minute, he steps up and he penenkas it right down the middle. This guy's the coolest fucker alive. Now there is time for your goals of the week. We've got some brilliant strikes once again. First of all, we head actually to Atletico Madrid, for a man you may have heard of in Julian Alvarez, who's got a free kick from distance and has curled it right into the top corner. A little bit further out though for Brian Linson of NEC Nijmegen, who's picked up the ball on the halfway line and absolutely blasted it. You guys know the drill by now. But a slightly different goal coming from Italy. And I'm gonna let it play out. We'll waffle over the top of it. I might speed it up just a little bit as well. But Cagliari were 2-0 up already. All right, they didn't, they were just playing for fun. And you could really tell because the team goal they managed to score here to go 3-0 up is triangles upon triangles. It's some of the most beautiful teamwork I think I've seen this season. Really, really deserving goal of the week.
Hello all and welcome to The Beautiful Game, the segment where we take a look at the poetic and brilliant side of the game that we love. We are back by popular demand for yet more glorious beauty.
¡Oh! ¡Ahí está! ¡Oh! ¡Ahí está!
And that concludes The Beautiful Game.
Now in Turkey, and Galatasaray secured their place as league winners, overcoming Jose Mourinho's Fenerbahce. It was a party atmosphere, Victor Osimhen getting himself on a score sheet and his own daughter announcing the goal for the rest of the stadium. But Galatasaray really started to take the piss when they allowed their goalkeeper, Fernando Muslera, to score a penalty to make it 3-0 right at the end. Now he is a club legend and he's leaving, so it's totally understandable. It was in the 90th minute. They weren't going to concede 2 goals realistically, even if he did miss. These lot are doing pro-club storylines right now. Galatasaray posted that they'd got themselves 5 stars before GTA 6 had even come out, after adding yet another title to their tally, and that is fitting, to be honest with you, as most Turkish league games are a GTA lobby. The tweeting didn't stop, though, as they edited the video of Jose Mourinho putting a VAR laptop in front of a TV camera earlier this season to put the real one, a dig at Jose being the special one. Yeah, the most ultimate of shithousery awards for Galatasaray here. One team not winning their domestic league, though, is Ajax, who pulled off perhaps the most spectacular bottle job the world of football has ever seen. They needed just 6 points from their final 5 games, only to lose 2 and draw 2, including conceding a 99th minute equaliser to a 10-man mid-table Groningen last week. Ajax players were preventing ball boys from doing their job so they could hold on to a 2-1 lead, only for them to concede anyway, and then this ball boy to go back to the same substitute and offer a new ball to him. Yeah, shithousery award. Whoever that player is, slap him in the face as well. Either way, it was all getting emotional for Ajax. Manager Francesco Farioli was in tears. Wout Weghorst was punching a cameraman that came near him, but at least Dutch journalists were able to see some slight positives.
I didn't like the football all the time, but I just want to thank you for how you are. That's it.
Thank you.
It was PSV who made the most of Ajax's errors, winning the league instead. Their players interrupting their manager Peter Bosch's press conference to pour beer all over him. Meanwhile, there were celebrations in the centre of Eindhoven. So much so, this police horse had to wake up a fan who'd got a little bit too drunk the night before. Elsewhere in the Eredivisie, and there is a crazy situation developing at Fortuna Sittard, who find themselves in the European spots but can't actually play European football next season due to missing paperwork. I don't know whether they just didn't think they were going to end up in Europe, but they missed the deadline to submit paperwork to UEFA. I thought they've just never done this shit before, but yeah, they can't play in it now. In Czechia now, and Sparta Prague's physio was getting a little bit aggressive. We needed him for Crystal Palace versus Man City, mate. Jan Vertonghen announced his retirement whilst playing in Belgium, and it was a lovely touch as his club organised for his daughter to hold up the subboard when he came off and got a standing ovation. Firmly outside of the stadium, though, is Damien Daft, who was suspended for an Irish League match involving the side that he manages, Shelburne, so he decided to watch on from a nearby hill. Head into Miami, and I think, lads, we can probably tell who Lionel Messi's son is based on the goals that he's scoring at youth level. Have Lamine Yamal bathe this kid, and we're going to have like an all-timer storyline that even like WWE couldn't create. Meanwhile, speaking of GOAT conversation sons, and Cristiano Ronaldo scored his first goal for Portugal's under-15s after getting a call-up and hit the Sue celebration. We need a Ronaldo Jr. versus Messi Jr. generation in like 10 years, I'm telling you now. In MLS football now, and this Montreal defender brought an interesting decision to the table, going for a scorpion kick piece of control in your own third. I wouldn't recommend, but I love the optimism. Meanwhile, elsewhere out on the pitch at Montreal, and these lot are producing magic tricks, Aberdeen's Jack McKenzie was injured after fans threw seats onto the pitch when Aberdeen faced off against St Mirren this week. I mean, truly ridiculous behaviour. Now though, it's time for the moment you've all been waiting for, because over in Romania, a massive congratulations to FCSB who won the title this week as Romanian football starts to wind down. But don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, they're still providing us with content, as FCSB's players decided to turn up to the final game of the season all dressed as their favourite superhero and take to the pitch to applaud their own fans. Because why not? Why would you not, I guess? Closer to home, and Sheffield United had their Twitter account hacked this week. And after initially trying to promote some sort of cryptocurrency spam, the hacker started to understand his target audience, deciding instead of all that crypto shite to blast Barry Bannon, a very well-known Sheffield Wednesday player, rivals of Sheffield United. There was some severe animosity going on in the National League as well. Boreham Wood fans celebrating out on the pitch. This Maidstone supporter couldn't watch on without taking action, that action being 2-foot challenging one of the Boreham Wood supporters. At Torquay, they've announced a new staff member, Paul Bastard. You've got to be taking the piss. Like, about Paul Bastard. The poor bastard having to deal with this name his whole life. And Boiler FC, who have featured on this channel before for suffering a heavy defeat, well, they suffered another one, and they knew this one was coming over on Twitter, getting piped 23-3 this week. It's actually almost an impressive scoreline, to be honest with you. Shout out Portuguese side Santa Clara, who qualified for the Conference League whilst being quite literally based in the Atlantic Ocean. Yeah, they're, I think, probably the first team, maybe ever, actually, to qualify for UEFA competition whilst being based in the Atlantic Ocean, but they're obviously an island-based team, and they also have the first player to reach 40 kilometers an hour out on a pitch, probably, as Gabriel Silva hit dizzying speeds. At Universidado of Chile, and one of their fans clearly celebrating his birthday, he brought a cake to their most recent fixture. On the South American theme and in the Copa Libertadores, this defender's definitely had his knees broken. It must have been a pretty severe injury, though, in Colombia, because why have we got 27 minutes of injury time? In Moldova, and Sheriff Tiraspol managed to avoid losing all season, but still didn't win the league. They have a very confusing league system that basically resets at the halfway stage, and it's like a championship group where all the best teams in the country play each other, like the top 6 or something out of the division. Well, despite going unbeaten during the original phase, they've been done seriously dirty by the new one. I can't lie, winning a bike for being a man of the match in a J-League game might be the coolest reward that we've ever seen on this channel. And at Bodo Glimt, one young fan has commemorated the club that he loves in a pretty unique way. He is a cancer survivor, but unfortunately lost his eye during the process, and so decided to replace it with a glass eye that has his beloved Bodo Glimt's badge on it, so that he can always represent them. Now there is time for Still 0-0, and you guys know the score by now. This is a segment of the show where I bring to you the best of Sunday League and amateur football. And look, we often take the piss out of Sunday League football, right, about the quality that's on offer. But don't get it mistaken, this centre-back might be providing some of the best quality we've seen in a while, because he's picked up the ball and decided he's doing it all on his own, running all the way through his opponents and getting a slapper of a goal to boot. On to the weird stuff though now. Now, we all know going down to 10 men, hardly ideal in a game of football, okay? Someone gets sent off, you are massively disadvantaged. Have you ever heard of a team starting a game with 10 men on purpose. Well, that's what happened over in the Welsh Cup final, where Skee were playing up against TNS. They made an error when handing in their team sheet. They accidentally put a player on the team sheet that was injured. Now, obviously, this man's on crutches somewhere. He cannot play the game. And once the team sheet is in, you can't change it. That's it. It's final. So to get around it, they decided to not play another outfielder. They instead put some reserve goalkeeper out onto the pitch who actually started the game with the intention of then substituting him off after about 45 seconds and bringing on the player that they actually wanted to start the game in the first place. So the reserve goalkeeper walked onto the pitch as an outfielder randomly and then was substituted after a minute. And finally, we head over to the lower divisions of Italian football, where Athletic Club Palermo, not to be confused with Palermo who wear pink, old like Paolo Dybala's old team, etc. They've just been promoted to Serie D, the 4th tier of Italian football. And the club wanted to give them a nice gift for, you know, the achievement. Now, AC Palermo are sponsored by a company called Escort Advisor. It's not going to take that much brain power to work out what these guys do. They advise escorts, okay? And so the reward that these players have been given is a lifetime membership to their website. Really takes a smashing season to a whole new level. That, though, is going to wrap up football this week, and I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, then feel free to slap a like on the video, and of course, subscribe if you're new to the channel. You can also follow me on social media. It is at @theofficialfng on Twitter and on Insta. But it's been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a wonderful day, enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.